Glenn's death is made even more tragic by the Walking Dead comics finale. The most tragic aspect of Glenn's death in the Walking Dead comics is that he isn't there to assist in raising his son Herschel. Hello everyone, I hope you are having a great day. Before we continue with our video today, I want to warmly thank everyone for supporting our channel and inform you that we will continue to work and improve our content. Without further ado, let's move on to today's video. Few comic book deaths have been as terrible as Glenn Rhee's murder in The Walking Dead, but this loss is made much more tragic by the fate of his son Herschel in the last issue of the series. The tragedy was not only born from its heartbreakingly accurate representation, but also from the fact that it resulted in the death of one of the comic's most supportive, helpful, and considerate characters. Years later, Glenn's absence from Herschel's upbringing makes the tragedy of his death all the more tragic. Glenn is assassinated by Negan, the Savior's commander, and Robert Kirkman and Charlie Adler's The Walking Dead number 100 as punishment for Rick Grimes and his gang of survivors murdering his troops. Maggie, Glenn's expectant wife, is made to watch her husband's gruesome execution because she is a captive of Negan's troops along with the rest of the gang. She eventually gives birth to Herschel. In the zombie outbreak, Maggie, who has always been brave and strong, goes on to become one of the hardest and most capable leaders of any survivor group, ultimately rising to the position of president of her own survivor community. Naturally, it is challenging for her to devote her complete attention to the care and growth of her and Glenn's kid due to her emphasis on leading her society and eradicating zombies. It makes intuitive sense to assume that Maggie, who is tough as nails, would have made sure her kid could kick some butt when necessary. Herschel, however, develops significantly differently from his parents as a result of Glenn's sudden death and Maggie's expanding leadership responsibilities. The series' last issue, The Walking Dead number 193, takes place years in the future and has Herschel as an adult who lives off the success and notoriety of his mother. Glenn and Maggie's son is currently a traveling entertainer who has a collection of zombies under his control. Herschel is unhappy at the loss of an expensive zombie rather than the potential threat one of these zombies may have represented when it escapes and is killed by Carl. He rushes to the sheriff and summons Carl for trial. He finds it offensive that while Rick Grimes is revered, his own father seems to have been forgotten. It is obvious that Glenn's more thoughtful nature and active involvement in his son's upbringing would have resulted in a better trained adolescent and, eventually, a more competent and caring adult had he lived to raise his child. Herschel was not reared well and has always been trouble, according to Earl in the article. But if Glenn had been a part of his life as a child, this would not have been the case. There's a good likelihood that Maggie would have taken on a leadership role within Hilltop or one of the surviving settlements even if Glenn hadn't been slain by Negan. Herschel's primary caregiver, Glenn would have been able to liberate Maggie to be all that she can be because of his laid-back, encouraging nature. Maggie gives Herschel anything he requires in an effort to make up for Glenn's death and absence. It's her attempt to save him the pain and misery she's gone through. However, Herschel becomes into a haughty and self-centered member of the group, as was noted in The Walking Dead number 193. He appears to have no problem boasting about his social standing as the president's son or demanding that everyone treat him with respect, including the son of the man whose presence made a post-zombie society possible. Glenn's disposition implies that he would have brought up his kid to be a kind person who is sensitive to the complexity of a post-apocalyptic world and the people who live in it, even if there are no guarantees in parenting. Although Glenn Rhee's passing came as a shock, one of The Walking Dead's biggest tragedies was his absence from his son Herschel's existence. Glenn's death on The Walking Dead was definitely a bad decision, according to Jeffrey Dean Morgan. When asked whether there was a scene with Negan that he wished would have gone differently, Jeffrey Dean Morgan said, "No." Fans were split when Morgan claimed he probably wouldn't have murdered Glenn. While filming The Walking Dead's last 2 episodes, Jeffrey Dean Morgan occasionally reflects about his contentious introduction to the show over years ago. When asked whether there was anything that he wishes would have happened differently with his character, Negan, on AMC's long-running post-apocalyptic thriller, Morgan responded, "I wouldn't have murdered Glenn." "Yeah. I think you made the wrong choice there," Morgan said with a half-smile, alluding to his character's violent murder of Stephen Yeun's Glenn Rhee. On TWD, Jeffrey Dean Morgan was eager to debut as Negan. No one could have been more thrilled than Morgan to join TWD as the boisterous, loudmouthed opposite of Rick Grimes, Andrew Lincoln. At a Supernatural Series conference in Pasadena, California, in 2015, the actor excitedly revealed how he was chosen for the series. He quickly recognized it as Negan when he was given the job, even if there were little details, and he leaped at the chance to portray the character. Since he had gotten accustomed to portraying sort of a decent man with a tough appearance, but a heart of gold in there someplace, Morgan claimed he was attracted to the part at the time. Morgan viewed Negan as a different challenge. "Does Negan have any heart?" stated Morgan at the time. "As an actor, I see that as a challenge, and I welcome and eagerly anticipate situations like that." Negan killed a mysterious character off-screen in the Season 6 finale of 2016 when he first made an appearance. Glenn was the one to pass away in the comics. Fans discovered that the show diverged from the comics on the Season 7 premiere, which aired months later. Abraham, Michael Cudlitz, was a dangerous threat, but Negan chose to murder him instead. Glenn briefly felt secure. Negan swiftly snatched a cherished weapon, a baseball bat, and killed Glenn as retaliation for Daryl's, Norman Reedus, outburst. Glenn wasn't merely struck by Negan. He wailed on him, repeatedly beating his head in with the bat in front of Rick and the survivors who had been the focus of fans' attention for years. Glenn is chosen by Jeffrey Dean Morgan to be his second victim. Despite being a direct adaptation from the comics, audiences didn't enjoy the sequence. Glenn's death was described as torture porn by several fans and media sites. The episode is frequently credited for turning off a lot of fans to the show. And source alluded to Greg Nicotero, the episode's director and executive producer of TWD, when he said that fans were likely more upset by the severity of Glenn's death than by the actual event itself. "Yes, I did not record it. You discuss it with Nicotero," Morgan said. On The Walking Dead Season 7, Glenn, Stephen Yeun, had to pass away for a purpose. Fans were concerned that the character would be killed off, but the story's brutality was unavoidable. According to all accounts, The Walking Dead has been a resounding success for AMC, and the show's strong ratings were evidence that the zombie pop culture phenomenon was not a passing trend. Nevertheless, despite the show's financial success, there have been issues, adjustments, and painful choices to make, such the departure of its primary characters. When the fight with the Saviors in Season 6 resulted in a frontal meeting with Negan, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, in the season finale, it was evident that the television adaptation of the plot was moving in the same direction. Negan told them right in front of them that he was going to kill one of Rick's crew, just like he did in the comics. Negan attacked his chosen victim in the last moments of the episode, but the character's identity wasn't revealed until the Season 7 debut. This character's identity as Abraham was made clear throughout the episode, Michael Cudlitz. Daryl, Norman Reedus, retaliated in rage after Abraham's gruesome murder. Negan was upset by Daryl's reaction and determined that one death wasn't sufficient to make his point. Negan also put Glenn to death as retribution. By murdering off Abraham and Glenn, The Walking Dead gave this comic book scenario a twist. It has already been demonstrated by The Walking Dead that it doesn't always adhere to the original content, particularly when it comes to character fatalities. The program typically follows the same plot lines, but by murdering off several characters, it may keep viewers on the edge of their seats. Robert Kirkman, the author of The Walking Dead, revealed shortly after the episode aired that Glenn's passing in the comics was too significant to have another character take her place. He had to be Glenn, then, as his passing served as the catalyst for a broader plot that was still to develop on the program. Glenn's demise could not be modified, according to Robert Kirkman, who cited comic book content involving Rick, Maggie, Lauren Cohan, and Negan as justifications. It was important that Glenn passed away in the Season 7 opener, according to Kirkman, since Negan's choice to murder off Glenn caused so much to happen to these individuals. Although the loss of any character would have had an impact on Rick and the others, Glenn's situation was particularly important to Rick and Maggie. Since Season 1, Glenn has been on Rick's side. She had grown to be his most reliable buddy. Losing Glenn was a terrible blow to Rick, and it served as the impetus for the events of Seasons 7 and 8. His vengeance-driven campaign to free them from enslavement and fight the Saviors was inspired by seeing Glenn suffer such a terrible destiny, which provided The Walking Dead continuity with a great deal of tension. Thanks to episode 22 of the 10th season, viewers learned the villain's backstory and the circumstances surrounding one of the plot's most recognizable characters' demise. The genesis story of the villain and some information about his marriage to Lucille were revealed to viewers in The Walking Dead episode 22, Here's Negan. The protagonist also gives a lengthy monologue in this chapter, explaining why he killed Glenn in Season 7, which is one of the most well-known episodes of the show. This news contains spoilers, so beware. A hazardous group kidnaps Negan in a flashback from the early days of the zombie apocalypse and steals the medications he had acquired to cure his wife's cancer. They want to know where he got those supplies. Negan comes with a baseball bat and his trademark leather jacket to the group's refuge after learning that Lucille had committed suicide while he was away. Negan, who is enraged and grieving, assaults the security guards before approaching Baxter, the group's leader, and starting a speech. He got into a vicious bar brawl before the zombie apocalypse, which resulted in a minor assault charge against him. Negan tells Baxter the tale while mentioning that there was a penalty for his transgression. There are no legal repercussions in the New World, so individuals must create their own norms in order to preserve order. This is not murdering for me, Negan declares before killing Baxter. This unsettling statement from the bad guy also explains why he killed Glenn, Abraham, and other survivors because he was afraid they would attack him once again as he did to Baxter. In an effort to ease tension that is building, Carol takes Negan on a journey. Here's Negan's description, states that Negan now has plenty of time to think about himself and make a decision about his future. We appreciate you visiting our comic books and pop culture channel. For more exclusive news, scoops, and unique information, subscribe to Uncanny Collectibles.